Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unapologetically You, where we will be talking about the importance of nutrition for brain function. Now, I'm going to lean on Kelly for a lot of this discussion today because I'm not that hot on nutrition. That's not one of my strongest points. But I hope that Kelly and I can talk about our own experiences with nutrition, how we've molded our expertise and what we know about nutrition to our athletes and our clients, because that does serve a very big purpose, especially when you're working with sports people. So how do we then break that down for the general population? Because we are aware that not everybody is going to be sports people listening to this podcast. So how would you eat for nutritional enhancement and, like clearing up your mental state, getting a better memory, having a better digestion system, and all of these things we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about sugar, refined sugar, fruit, the contrast between carbohydrates and the stigma between zero carbs, and then talk about protein as well. So how does veganism or vegetarianism in comparison to meat eating affect us, our cognitive function, and things like that. So Cal, hi.
Hi, Tuls. I got scared when you said you're going to lean on me for this one.
No, for sure. Like, I don't know about you, but as a coach, like we are taught to be specialist generalists, right? So we kind
Yes,
of have to know a
absolutely.
little bit about everything. But nutrition has always been something that I've had to work a little bit harder towards gaining that expertise and knowledge. So if I
Okay.
could, I would always lean on a nutritionist.
Yeah, well, I did do more of it. We've got to remember how long ago I did do it, though. So, and how quickly, our research is changing what we think and the way we do things on the daily, in truth, with nutrition. But I still keep up with it because I do enjoy it. I do love the topic. And so while I might not know the answer to so many things you're going to lean on me for, I will be able to say, go study this person, go Google that person, or yeah, and I'll have a ton of resources for
No,
everyone
I
to
love
go.
that. I love that. And when I was on Fitness Chicks, I had come out with a video talking about eating for cognitive function because I'm
Mhm.
obviously working with leaders now, working with females who experience a lot of stress and anxiety and brain
Yeah.
fog. This was a very big part of what I wanted to coach my clients with because everybody will come to me and say, what should I be eating, right? What should I be eating? Because I'm feeling fatigued, I'm feeling tired. And we both know, right? When we have had a lack of sleep, when we haven't had the greatest quality during the night, we end up, and there's research to show this, that we end up binging on high carbs, high sugar, refined sugar. And we actually eat more. There was a study, and I can't remember from the top of my head which one it was exactly, but even on that, they said they laid out a buffet for people and they said, right, you guys can sleep for 8 hours. The next group can sleep for between 4 and 6 hours. And there was another group that could only sleep for 4 hours. And
Mhm.
people slept for 4 hours, they kept picking at the buffet. And even though they had a proper meal, I think they ate about 300 to 500 calories extra than those who had 8 hours sleep. And that's
So after they'd had the sleep, they had eaten more, or before they'd gone to have
Yeah,
the sleep.
so sorry, that was a bit of a mix up. So basically, the people who slept for a shorter amount of time ended up
Yeah, yeah.
eating more during the buffet. So they had equal amounts of food in all cohorts, in all studies.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is the people who had the 4 hours sleep would have the buffet, would have their dinner, would pick extra food. Whereas those people who slept for 8 hours had the same amount of food offered to them. They just didn't eat it, they just didn't select it. So their cognition, their awareness of distinguishing between hunger, fatigue, things like that was
Mhm.
massively affected during sleep,
Mm.
the amount of
Mm.
sleep that they would have gotten.
Okay, and sleep also is a hormone, well, lack of sleep is a hormone disruptor, and a good amount of good sleep is a hormone balancer. So hormones would have played a part in there too. So there are hormones, and
Well,
here's where I'm, yeah,
so
sorry, there
I
are
know
hormones.
because I did some research for my book. So the
Sure,
BDNF,
okay.
so the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and they said that the elevations of this and noradrenaline is associated with antidepressant treatments. So neurotrophins is also involved in memory and performance, and that influences cognitive processing. So really, an upregulation of BDNF is important for learning and memory. So if you're lacking that, that's going to affect what your options are. So you're basically changing your neurons to then crave these types of food. But not only that, and I know you'll love this, Joe Dispenza talks about this, what you put on your dinner plate alters your genetics. So
Oh, for
food has
sure.
also been found to influence the way genes work by the process of epigenetics.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't know that before I researched for, obviously the studies and the books. And I was like, this is insane.
Epigenetics is so cool. So cool. I think people really do believe that they're at the mercy of the genes they were born with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think science has really proven that that's not necessarily the case. So nutrition is a big part of being able to change the genetic output, and the your future health as well as sleeping. So nourishment and sleeping, and I think it's also proven that the people you surround yourself with and the things you listen to are important as well. But yeah, really.
What I found really interesting is there was a longitudinal study and included over 100 years of birth, death, health, genealogical records. And they included about 300 Swedish families. It was in this isolated village in Sweden, and they said that the individual's risk for diabetes and early death was increased if their paternal grandparents grew up in a time of food abundance, not
Oh, really?
shortage. Yeah. Like I was really surprised at that, thinking, wait a second, if they're growing up in a food abundance, well, why have they got risk of early diabetes and early death? Well, we now know if you've got the privilege of a full fridge of snacks at the ready that you can literally just pull out because you're eating because you're bored, or you're eating because, well, you haven't compensated for the physical activity, right? In terms of you're not putting good nutrition in your body, so there's the heart pressure is higher, your cholesterol is higher, you're putting more pressure on your heart in general. You've got excess fat that you're carrying around, so it's extra for you to, it's extra for your body to work at, right?
Oh, yeah, carrying weights around all day.
Yeah, for sure. And not in the good kind, right? That we do in the gym, trying to use the excuse to going, I'll clean up the gym, and then you have a few weights. Making it up.
Yeah. Okay, no, that makes sense to me too. So if you're, living in a time of food abundance, there are treats. Your snacks are treats. Your snacks aren't nourishing, are they? And to be honest, if you're living in a time of food abundance, then you're probably living in a time when there's not a lot of physical labor. And I don't mean physical activity, but physical labor. So you're probably not working off those snacky, treaty food that you're rewarding yourself for being bored, like you said, in truth. Yeah. So there you go. That was diabetes, was it? That people were susceptible to. Okay. And I'm sure there's lots of studies like that showing other things, not just diabetes. Diabetes is a big one, and I think there's a huge percentage of US generations coming up with early diabetes. And very likely in Australia and the UK too, but most studies are done on the US population. So that's why I
They
say
are.
US.
I noticed that. There's a lot of studies with Americans. It's so easy to find their studies than it is to get, things from the UK or Australia or even.
Absolutely. Smaller populations, but also I think, just the studies are done over there.
But here's something interesting, actually. There's a news story. By the time this airs, it won't be news, but
Okay.
I think it's still relevant to bring it up. So a news story came out today, and it says that the NHS, so the National Health Service in England, is opening 15 specialist clinics for children living with severe obesity. So 10 to 11-year-olds are obese in England, according to the latest data. But I'm going to skip back a little bit, and I found another article, and it says obese children as young as 2 will be sent to the NHS clinics to help them lose weight.
When you're 2 years old, you're at the mercy of who's feeding you, right?
Yes, of course you are.
Wow. So that really just means, well, possibly little activity, and COVID may have played a part in less activity, not being able to go to parks. At least in Australia, the parks were closed. Yeah, same thing there. So yeah, you couldn't play with other 2-year-olds. There was no playgroups, there was no preschool, nothing was going on. So yes, let's sort of add that into the equation and say there's that. But I guess as a 2-year-old that isn't allowed to go out and play, you do get bored, and so mum might reward you with or give you chocolate or a lollipop to keep you quiet for 20 minutes. I've been there. So yeah, not being nourished with good food. Wow. She's young. I just can't get over it.
This is the thing. I was waiting for you to say something that I was probably gonna go against, but I'm like, no. You've kind of gone back to that line of 2 is so young that we do rely on our parents. And I don't know about you and how you feel about this, but I'm not a parent. I can only state from my level of perception and my experience is I'm going to learn from my parents. I'm going to learn from my surroundings. Just as you said at the beginning of the call, was that in the green room? I can't remember. Our circle.
I think it was in the green room. We had that conversation.
Yeah, our circle influences us, and we rely on our parents to feed us. I remember a fantastic lady who was my boss when I was working in Cardiff Council, and she said to me when she came into work the following day, and she said her daughter was hungry, and her daughter must have been maybe like 5 or 6. She said she was hungry and she wanted sweets or biscuits or whatever it was, because we all know where the biscuit tin is, right? So she said, Mum, I'm hungry, I want a biscuit. And she's like, no, I've just cut up some melon, you're going to eat some melon. And this is just before dinner, right? So maybe an hour and a half before dinner. So she said, no, I want chocolate or biscuits or whatever she wanted. And her mum was so stern, and she said, if you're really hungry, you're going to eat that melon. If not, you're going to wait for dinner. And then she stormed off. The little girl stormed off. Within about maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, she came back in and she's like, can I have some melon then, please, mum? And it's because, now, like I said, I can't quote and I can't speak for parents because I'm not in that position, but yeah, you could have easily said, oh, you know what, I don't want the hassle here. Or you could easily have stuck to your word. Like us as kids, we didn't really have a choice when my mum, as far as I'm aware, maybe we should bring her up on the podcast, which she never would come on anyway, did she give us a choice? Did she then say, okay, you know what, they haven't eaten dinner, let's get some fish and chips, or let's get this, let's get whatever. The thing is, going back to COVID, is McDonald's was open, the drive-through was open before gyms were open. Now, I'm going to point my finger at the government because they were in charge of this country. They are the ones who facilitate the types of fast food restaurants where you're thinking, I get the service industry needs to be opened, and I get we need to get the economy running again. But the fact of the matter is they kept gyms shut for a lot longer than they did fast food chains. And there was queues through the McDonald's drive-through. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. It makes it hard for people to make healthy choices, doesn't it? I mean, your choices are
limited. That's my point. If you are given a plethora of junk food, of sweets, of everything right on your table, and it's there day after day after day, we know that what you see, you're going to attract, right? It's in your vision. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If you try and hide the sweets, you're probably going to eat less of them. If they're on a higher shelf, you're going to eat less of them, right? Right there with you. I'm only pointing because my kitchen's right there, so I can live in my kitchen. I used to think that was a dream, but it's not. It's dangerous. But this is the thing.
Well, I don't even put things up high. I just don't buy them. So my husband can eat. Do you have Freddo frogs in England?
Oh, I love Freddos.
Oh, who doesn't?
They used to
just
cost
delicious.
5 and 10p.
They're like a cheap little snack at one stage. I don't know. I don't buy them anymore. But if you eat a Freddo, do you eat the whole Freddo? They're this big.
I mean, I haven't eaten Freddo since I was in high school, which was only 10 years ago.
Yeah, not even that. Not that long ago.
I joke. I jest.
You
know what? I don't eat chocolate like that anymore. If I do, I'll have a small piece of dark chocolate, or I'm really good. Now,
I'm really not.
I won't have.
Well, my husband can open a Freddo and bite the head off and put it back in the fridge, and I know for another day or another week, and then he'll go one day and go, "Oh, that half a Freddo's still there." Well, the half a Freddo is not there. No way is the half a Freddo there. And he looks, and he's so shocked. He goes, who took my half a Freddo? And he looks at me because he knows, of course, that it was me. And I had to look back at him and go, did you truly expect that half a Freddo to still be there from last week? And he did. He does. He still does. He expects
my dad does that. My dad does that. He'll have a tiny piece and then put it back in the fridge. He'll eat half an ice cream. I'm not even joking now. He's had half an ice cream and he's put it back in the fridge. And whereas I'm just who does that? Who does that? No. Now, I don't know whether women have this inclination regarding their hormones when it comes to the antioxidants, the good things that we get from chocolate, right? Mm-hmm. We know that we are on a 4-week circadian rhythm. We do not comply with a 24 hours like men do. Our hormones fluctuate between our ovulation, our menstrual cycle, whatever is happening during that month, not even considering the environmental stress that we're going through. And chocolate is that little bit of a relief. It's that sanctity in us. So I don't know whether we've adopted that from an earlier age, I know I definitely crave chocolate. And I'm quite regular with my menstrual cycle. So it means that I know when I'm craving it, and I don't crave it as much when I'm not about to menstruate. So for me, I've got to the point where, I don't mind chopping off a half and then leaving it aside. But I don't know. Is it to do with hormones? Is it to do with just you? Because my body's not the same as it was when I was 20 years old. I've got to be freaking careful now.
Oh, that's right. I can't eat a block of chocolate. Oh, no, I can, but I shouldn't anymore. But you said dark chocolate, and I know there's way more benefits in dark chocolate than there is in milk chocolate, but I am a milk chocolate girl. If there's dark chocolate in the cupboard and I'm scuffling around for a milk chocolate, I'll see the dark chocolate and I'll look at it and I'll consider it and I'll go, and I'll put it back. So I won't even have a block of it. So that can be in the house because it's I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it. But if there's a milk chocolate bar, if it's closed, it's safe. I won't open it. But if it's open, I can just inhale it. So I don't think that's a hormonal thing for me. I think it's lack of willpower.
Oh, okay.
And probably some other things. I don't know what it is. I really like Cadbury's chocolate.
Oh my
Cadbury
gosh,
milk
yeah.
chocolate.
Cadbury's is the one. If you're willing to sponsor this podcast, please get in touch.
We'll do it for a block a day. No,
I know.
no,
Oh
that's
my
dangerous.
goodness.
No, a block a
Okay,
month.
so this is a really good one. Actually, I had in mind to bring up the subject about refined sugar and fruit. So
Yes.
we know the differences, you and I, but there's so much horseshit ass articles. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Dad, we can. Go,
Yes, we
girl.
can. Horseshit articles on you shouldn't have too much fruit because it's got a lot of sugar in it. I'm just like, seriously, look at your overall diet and you're trying to restrict fruit. Like you probably
Yeah.
much to then be affected by the amount of sugar that you're consuming. But these are health professionals who are also advocating it. And this is what worries me. There is science says this doctor says that, and all of a sudden, good foods and now the devil.
It's so much easier as a professional to have a crew, to have a crowd that to stick with it, rather than be the one on the other side of the fence saying, eat your fruit. You know, it's so much more comforting to have people behind you agreeing with you. And I think that's a human trait, to want to be on the side where most people will agree. But if you get them aside, I don't know that everyone, health professionals, would agree with that. And let's go back 20 years to when I studied nutrition. And this is what I learned very simply. The sugars that are in fruit are what drive the nutrients into your receptors, so your liver, really. So if you are eating an orange with vitamin C in it, the sugar that's also in, or the fructose that's in the orange, drives the vitamin C. So if you just had a vitamin C tablet without the fructose in it, this is why they say it's not bioavailable, because it's not as bioavailable to your body as is in it. It goes with the sugar, it rushes, it runs to nourish you. And the same with all the goodness in an apple, in pawpaw, in everything.
But you're adding in fiber as well as the minerals and the nutrients from that, right?
Yes, that's right. And the sugar is the train that it all goes on. So that's why sugar in fruit, fructose, is essential, okay, because it's what carries the nutrient. And that's why taking capsules of the same thing is not as bioavailable to our bodies. So when people and when professionals are saying limit the amount of fruit, I think we take it too far. I think as humans sometimes we go, limit means none, or limit means one, you know. But a variety or a cup of chopped up mixture of fruit, so a cherry and a strawberry and a blueberry and, you know, a few pieces of apple and fruit, orange, is better than one apple, perhaps, if you're going to limit your fruit. I don't limit my fruit. There's also a strategy for eating your fruit first thing in the morning, because your liver from 2 o'clock onwards sort of starts heating up and getting ready and cleansing itself. So 2 a.m. this is, which is when a lot of people they wake up, because their liver wakes up as well. They go back to sleep, of course. But if you wake up in the middle of the night, have a look at what time it is, and it's often between 1 and 2 o'clock when your liver starts heating up and purging. And then that's why in the morning eating fruit is the strategic good time to eat it. So all that nourishment goes straight to your liver. If you avoid eating fatty things in the morning, then you get more nourishment from that fruit. Remember, this is information that I have studied and used myself for many, many years. I actually think it really works for me. Yeah. This is the thing too. What works for me does not necessarily work for someone else, because they might do night shift. Culture plays a big, big part on what people eat. Night shift also plays a big, big part on what people eat. So if they finish at nighttime and their dinner is their breakfast, but liver still works from 2 a.m. onwards, then what they're doing is lining their stomach and even filling their little receptors in the liver with fat, so that if you then eat fruit salad afterwards for a dessert, think of the liver like a little coral. Okay, so if there's lots of little receptors everywhere, but if they've got fatty, greasy stuff in them, then the nutrients sort of glide right past.
Yeah.
And are eliminated by our normal digestive processes. So you might be eating the apple, but you're not getting the nourishment from the apple.
That's interesting.
So strategically eating your fruit is also a big part of eating it at all.
Yeah. And it's funny you say eating fruit in the morning, because it is almost like when what I heard, yeah, it's your liver spewing out what it needs, and it's kind of calling. It's almost like a foghorn going, yeah, I'm ready to absorb.
Yes.
And that's what wakes you up. So even if you have light sleep or whatever it is, it wakes you up at that point. Some people don't even notice it, because we wake up at multiple points in the night because of our sleep, which we won't go into today. But in terms of, I had also heard about eating fruit before the main meal, because it aids the digestion. So it's actually,
Absolutely.
it's really, really beneficial. So for me, I would say, okay, so if you're hungry, drink some water, because you just might be dehydrated. The fact that you're reaching for something, but it could just be hydration that you're lacking. And then if you're still hungry, have some fruit, which is obviously what my old boss did with her little girl. And then later on, if you're still hungry, again, 20-minute intervals later, then have a proper meal. But don't restrict yourself from saying, I can't eat now. And I think that because as society, we've been brought up, I'm going to go back to like the war era, right? So you are conditioned to go into the workplace, and you have set times of when you start, when your lunch break is, and when you finish, which is how breakfast, lunch, and dinner has evolved. Now, bearing in mind the level of manual labor has now shifted to more, I can't remember the word for it right now in the top of my head, but it's more of you're more of a cognitive worker these days, right? You're more able to sit at a desk, do more computer-based work. You don't need to do as much physical labor as you used to do before, which means our habits are changing because the food is more accessible, but also it's more saturated fat, it's refined fat. It's these things that have been on the shelf for weeks to months, and those are the things that we're consuming. And actually going back to what you talked about, citrus fruits in particular, and obviously this podcast was about, eating for cognitive function, flavonoids. I remember reading this in the Times newspaper, and that is specific. If you can integrate flavonoids in your diet, it increases it's cognitive enhancement. It improves function in older adults. It supports working memory, attention, multitasking, even if that's a thing, because I don't believe in multitasking.
I don't either. I can't do it.
No, I can't. Not at all. I believe in switching, and there is task switching, but you're diverting your energy and your efforts, which means it's taking you longer to come back onto that task. But flavonoids are found in cocoa, in green tea, in citrus fruits, in wine, thank God, and in dark chocolate. So they have these little things. So you don't necessarily have to have all the citrus fruits, but it helps. If you've got a little bit of dark chocolate in your diet, it helps. So it's just like you said, are you giving yourself the whole nutrition, the whole rainbow, the spectrum of nutrition by saying, let's have an apple, also let's have an orange, let's have a kiwi, let's have a banana, and it's all giving you the nutritional sustenance that you need, rather than going, oh, I've had some fruit, yeah, I've had a slice of apple. Like, that's not going to be enough, right?
No, that's right. It's not enough. No, I know is it 3 cups of vegetables a day, or is it 3 cups?
Ours that changes different. Like we have, you should eat between 5 and 7. And then when we were part of the European Union, when we were part of Europe, it was different as well. So
it changes all of the time.
It changes all the time. But as you said, I think it definitely is unique to the individual. Like I don't eat bananas because I'm like, well, I don't need as much potassium. I don't work as hard in my training to then advocate me having that type of fruit in my diet. Whereas if, for example, if I was coaching one of my extreme athletes, I would definitely, because it could work pre-training, post-training, same via competition. And that's the thing, like, what are you eating as a whole spectrum? But then we would definitely prescribe it in terms of competition training and things like that. And depending upon what they do each day, you know, how demanding is your metabolism?
Yeah, absolutely. Male, female as well. Not in terms of bananas, but in terms of metabolism. So I know I can do a workout with some of my athletes, and we wear monitors to say how many calories we've burned. Now, calorie burn is not, it's a very indistinct science. So it is, all right, for example, Sam will burn 1,000 calories or close to 1,700, between 700 and 1,000, and I'll be scraping in 300 to 500. And that's, well, age, but females as well, right? So we can do the same amount of work at around the same heart rate, and I will not burn anywhere near. So like I said, half the amount of calories that Sam would burn. And it's so sad because I've put in just as much energy and just as much time, but I cannot now, I always say to him, now go eat those calories, you know, and I'm seeing that now I can sort of refuel on 300 calories or 300 or 500 calories, whereas he's really struggling to re-eat those 700 calories. Life's good. So yeah, men can have those more high calorie fruits like bananas and avocados and that without even worrying about it. And women shouldn't worry about it either, because like you say, they have the potassium and they do actually have other minerals and vitamins in them that synergize that potassium. And I think they're just well known for potassium, but there are a lot of other things in there that are really good as well, and fiber.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, it's a carbohydrate. So carbohydrates have such a bad stigma, have such a bad name for themselves.
They are so important for women's hormones. Yeah, women who are low carb will lose weight, but ultimately their hormones are going to pay the price for it. So yeah, women do need to strategically, again, eat carbs.
Yeah, but I think we need to advocate that carbohydrates isn't necessarily white rice, white bread, potatoes.
Well, that's what it's not, because they're empty carbohydrates.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think that people are forgetting, like, the keto diet is so big, and I've got friends who are following it, and I'm just thinking, well, you're not giving your body the sustenance it needs. Think of a vibrant plate. Does it have carbohydrates? Does it have proteins? Does it have fats? And it needs all of these things in your plate. But for carbohydrates, which gets a bad rap, I'm thinking, so you don't eat green peppers, so you don't eat fruit, so you don't eat bananas, because that's what carbohydrates are too. So if you are following a strict diet, what are you doing to your organs? What are you doing to your system? What are you deteriorating?
Yeah. Well, your brain needs it. Your brain needs carbohydrate. So that's one organ you're deteriorating. Vegetables have all the vitamins and minerals that we need. Not all the vitamins and minerals. Meat counts. But yeah, that's where your vitamins come from, fruit and vegetables. So you do need to eat them. And I think when people think carbohydrates, though, they are thinking, well, surely people know now that white rice, white bread, rice, no matter what colour it is in truth, although there is more sustenance in brown or whole grain stuff. But yeah, all right, let's do white stuff. So pasta, yeah. Yes, exactly. So it would have vitamin E in the husk. But yeah, white everything is calories, not nourishment. So if you're going to drop carbs, that's what you drop. but don't call it carbs. Don't, so be
No.
low pasta, be low rice, not low carb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, because it's so confusing for us as professionals, where for me it's a red warning, it's a red flag, because I'm like, well, what are you doing to sustain yourself in those other areas? Because carbohydrates is a massive percentage of your diet. It's like saying I'm off water.
I know, it's true. Yeah, it's that important.
It's that important.
But surely people understand that vegetables have to be the dominant part of our diet.
For sure. And the more variety, the more color, obviously, the more minerals and nutrients that you get from it. And what's your take regarding proteins? So I know it's difficult to have as much protein from a plant-based diet than it is based. But in terms of digestion, like I've gone from being born a vegetarian, went to Australia, which my mum says corrupted me, turned into a meat eater.
Australia corrupted you and turned you into a meat eater?
Me. And you never guess what? The first thing I tried was the McDonald's.
I don't know why I saw that coming. Where saw it coming? Okay. McDonald's
and then I've gone back to being a veggie. So I'll eat eggs as protein because I know that my body, as you were saying, that you know what works for you. I know if I can eat eggs every day, if I can have that as my pretty much main protein in the day, my body is regulated. I feel good. I've got more energy. I don't binge on different sugars, carbs, whatever it is, unhealthy things as much as I. So, say for example, if I had oatmeal in the morning, my day would be completely different food-wise than if I just had protein, because I feel like that gives me the sustenance for a longer period of time, and I don't feel hunger.
Right? Yeah. Like deep into the afternoon. If I have porridge in the morning, I can go till deep in the afternoon and not have to eat anything, not feel hungry. Yeah. All right. So I'm not necessarily vegetarian, but I do predominantly eat vegetarian type food. So I don't eat meat every day. I don't feel the need to eat meat every day, but sometimes I do feel the need to eat meat. It's not chicken for me. I don't like chicken. So it'll be a red meat, but really nice little piece.
You're getting the iron from that then?
Yes. From the red meat, yes. Yeah. My household's starting to wake up. Can you hear that? Sorry. Eggs. I'm not an egg eater because my skin doesn't like it.
Oh.
I know, and I haven't worked out why it doesn't like it, but not eating eggs or really severely reducing the amount of eggs I eat is good for my skin. So, no eggs for me. So my protein comes from meat, beans, as in dried kidney beans, borlotti beans, white beans, any of those kind of beans is where my protein comes from. I do have a protein supplement, not every day even, but I do have like a no whey one, so a non-dairy supplement, and some of my protein will come from that as well. So, but that's what we mean about everyone being different, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like some people use food as this is just for energy, and other people use food as I enjoy being a foodie. I enjoy food. I love the feeling of, being with my friends and eating food, actually enjoying different types of meals from all around the world. And I think I'm definitely a foodie, but I'm also conscious about how I eat it. Just as I said earlier, I'm now conscious about, I love ice cream, but I can't have ice cream every day. Yeah, I like milk chocolate, but it's not great for my teeth, and I feel that sensitivity, and then I get the sugar cravings, and it's a spiral for me. So I know
it's a snowball for me too.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we feel young, we feel energetic, but our body is over time decaying, is basically what it's doing. So we need to now adjust how we're supplementing it for not only physical health, but that mental support too. And that's when it goes back to, having cumin, having flax seeds, having things that you are adding into your diet that actually helps you physically, mentally. And that's what you're supposed to do, right? How are you performing each and every day? And you may be doing the right things. You may be meditating. You may be doing the exercises, an hour every day, or whatever it is. You may be going for a run. But if you're not then putting the good food in your body, well, aren't you going backwards in terms of your overall health and well-being?
Yeah, and you can sustain that for a while and feel good and look good, but at some stage, and they do say it's around 50s that, things are eyesight, hearing, cholesterol levels, triglyceride levels, things that still aren't necessarily visual on you, but are happening on the inside. So thyroid, liver. And I was reading an article the other day, a research article about cholesterol levels around menopause. It was actually around menopause for women. They went up, and the reason they found they went up was not just because their eating habits changed necessarily, although eating habits around menopause apparently do change a little bit towards craving those sugary treats, sweets kind of food. But it was more of a thyroid issue, so a hypothyroid causing cholesterol to come up. So that was the research article, but then the article that I read that referred to that was saying that this is happening in younger and younger women now. Yeah, so thyroid issues are starting to become more apparent at a younger age. This can be because of the way our liver has had to filter out more environmental pollution, chemical pollution. And by that I mean, cars and things from the industry, but chemical pollution can be the detergent we wash our clothes in and then wear, and it absorbs into our skin. The makeup we wear, what we were just saying about, we don't like wearing. It doesn't feel right to wear makeup anymore. But the makeup you wear, the shampoos you use, the hair colors, if you use hair colors, so that all goes in, and your liver is trying to get rid of all of this stuff every day, and yet the next day you put more in. So this is why the thyroid in younger and younger women is starting to be affected. And so we're finding cholesterol and diabetes and all these things that sort of apparently happen at menopause in previous generations are happening in our generation, Tuls, a lot earlier, so in your 30s. So yeah, I mean, it's a big red flag, isn't it, when it's happening on the inside and we don't see it, but on the outside everything kind of looks, because if people are slim or can run, that 4-minute mile we were talking about, or not even that, if people can get out and exercise, they go, oh, you're so fit and healthy. But are you?
For sure. I think the biggest thing for me is when even before I was educated in strength and conditioning, and before that when I was a fitness instructor, is when my cousin, who was super, super slim, but she couldn't run or she couldn't walk up the stairs fast because she was like, I get wheezy. And I'm like, but you're thin. And that was the biggest red flag for me. And obviously with the education and all the knowledge I've got now, it just goes to show that the assumption of somebody being slim doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy. And this is our preconceived idea is fat is bad and slim is good. And it's just having that negative association between what we should look like, what we should do. And women have been bombarded with what we should look like generations, right? Through different decades, they've been told that skinny is good, that curvy is better, that, having big butts is great. So it really, really depends upon the type of generation that you have been born in. But it's also just saying it's the healthy mind, healthy attitude, healthy heart. How can you approach it in a holistic way? So what are you reading? What are you feeding into your brain? What are you listening to? What are you doing day in, day out? And I know you've given our audience, which is amazing, a sneak peek into the stresses that we're going to be talking about in the next few podcasts. But for now, it's just saying to our listeners is just take a step back and just say, what are you putting in your mouth? Because you have control over that. Nobody else. Nobody has control over what you put in your mouth, and also why are you eating that. So just self-awareness. You don't even need to change your eating habits right now. Just ask yourself why you're eating this and what do you hope to achieve from that. So if, for example, you want ice cream in the evening, like I love ice cream, I'm gonna eat it because I'm like, you know what? I really like ice cream. I'm gonna treat myself in a way of I really enjoy the sensation of eating ice cream and the taste it has, but I'm not gonna do it the next day or the day after or the day after that, most likely. And I'll make a conscious choice to enjoy it in the moment, probably even more so than I would if I was having it every day, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's just getting them to be aware of it. But also, we've both got programs which we support individuals. So if you wanted to reach out to us, my program, Elevate Success Leadership Formula, does give you workbooks and worksheets on certain foods, what the benefits of certain foods are, and how you could incorporate them into your diet. So I do work with my clients on that element.
Yes, Tuls does. Actually, more for our audience is what Tuls does, and I do more rehab and performance, so two opposite ends of the spectrum. But I wanted to just address you loving your ice cream. So you and everyone else who loves ice cream should look at raypeat.com. So it's RAYPEAT.com, because he actually advocates for having ice cream at night time for women. If you're a man, bad luck, but for women. So he's a lot of his research, or all of his research, is around hormones. And I studied his stuff at uni and found it wasn't mainstream. His ideas were not accepted wholesale by a lot of people, but a lot of people will take bits and pieces of what he has studied and do further study on it. But that's one for everyone to have a look up. There's a lot of free articles that he put out. He was an old man, so I don't think he puts out stuff anymore, but he has a lot of stuff up on his website. And another podcast that's great to listen to for nutrition is ATP Science. It's an Australian site, but I think it's still just .com. And their podcasts are great. Now, they do have an agenda because they sell the supplements that they talk about. Not every podcast is about the supplements, but every now and again they'll talk about one of their particular supplements. Nonetheless, I have used their supplements and they are fabulous. So that's another one for anyone to listen to. And you as well, Tuls. Go justify that ice cream addiction.
Oh yeah, for sure. The thing is, because it's not in the house right now, I can't have it.
Yeah, that's what I have to do.
But if I do crave it, I'm just like, no, I'll have it during Christmas, or I'll have it, at certain times. I know where I'm due home, and the freezer's full, the cupboards are full of all these indulgences, which I do indulge in. I'm like, I'm not afraid to have my own time in my flat and then go home and just enjoy food with my family. Because again, you can make it a social thing, right? You're more likely to drink when you're with other people. You're more likely to eat different foods when you're with them. So it's just balancing it out. And that's why I said earlier, is just, what are you eating and why? It doesn't necessarily mean you need to change it, but just bringing that level of awareness on what suits you, because what suited us all 10 years ago definitely won't suit us now. And it's just making sure that you're giving your body the right thing for the outcome that you desire. So if you're thinking, I'm feeling sluggish at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, well, what are you putting in your body yesterday? What are you putting in your body this morning and at lunchtime? And see if you can just adjust it. And Cal, I love the recommendations for the podcast and things like that. But just just to reiterate, supplements don't cover up a major wound. Make sure you've got the basics right. Make sure you've got good nutrition, good sleep, good hydration, good exercise, and then bring in the supplementation. So that's just a side note that I wanted to bring in.
Yeah, no, it's a very important one because I haven't ever tried to have a diet of supplements. Like you feel like you jiggle. You can take that many capsules and you just walk around. You can hear it all working around in there. But yes, look, sometimes there are deficits in my diet and I will take supplements, knowing that I need them. But I don't take them for long periods of time. And I haven't ever taken anything for years, for example. So yes, exactly what you said. Sleep. You know, we should eat according to our hormones and according to our age.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of study going on at the moment around women's hormones, probably younger women's hormones or more athletes' hormones. That's where the research that I'm seeing is coming from. But I'm sure there's some out there around, you know, it should probably go by decade, by 20s, 30s, 40s, then 50s, 60s. Or menopause onwards. See, this is where I'm ignorant as well. Is menopause onwards, do your hormones change a lot? Maybe, maybe not. But leading up into that perimenopause, menopause era of your lives, I understand there's just a huge adjustment to be made.
For sure. And yet you're missing that hormone that was for the reproduction, for your menstruation, is now missing. You're going through menopause and postmenopausal women, so there's going to be a definite lack of, and how do you supplement it with the nutrition? So I think that that's probably something that we can look into. But for our audience, if that's something that you are interested in, please get in touch with us and we will do another cast on this. So just to round up, Cal, this has been awesome. You said that we're going to do this by the what was it?
Fly by the seat of our pants.
Flying by the seat of our pants. And I think we did all right, considering this isn't our niche topic, but definitely lent on you regarding some of the podcasts and the knowledge and your previous background on nutrition. So thank you. And guys, stick around for our next podcast. And we're going to be talking about internal stress manifesting into physical pain. Obviously, we're going to share our own personal stories of stress, how we've experienced stress and the effects of it. But I want you to join our conversation in for next time. And remember, if you are watching this on YouTube or even on Spotify, please do subscribe to our channel. Please do hit the notification bell. And we'd love to see you soon on whatever channel that you prefer to listen or watch us on. So thank you again so much. And Cal, I'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one too, Tuls. You have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you, sweetie. Bye.